Hello everybody, great to see so many of you already here. We'll get started at 2:30 just to give everybody a chance to join. But welcome to our second and final Q&A of the day with Kay James. While we're waiting for everybody to join, do you want to say a little bit about yourself, Kay, and the services that OT4Independence provide?
Yeah, hi everybody. So my name's Kay James. I'm based in Maidstone in Kent, and I'm an occupational therapist by profession, but also I've been doing moving and handling training for about the last 20 years as well. So I do a bit of both. And I first got involved in single carer handling about 10 years ago for Kent County Council when they first wanted to start dipping their toe in the water and trying to see if there was an opportunity to look at improving quality of care and whether they could make some cost savings as well. So that's how I first got into doing the single-handed care. And a lot of the techniques, even on those videos today, are techniques that we did with two people, and we've just spent some time working out how to do it with one. And so a lot of them are techniques that you could easily do with two people, and doing it with one sometimes just means walking around the bed quite a bit. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at those videos, and there's going to be a chance to ask me some questions.
Like Kay said, hopefully you've had a chance to have a look in the actual workshop of our virtual event. I know some of you are joining directly through the Zoom link, so please do make sure that you have a look in there. That's open for 30 days, and I will also pop the link in the chat in just a second before we begin, so you can make sure that you've had a look there as well. We'll get started at 2:30. I will just pop in the link now for anybody that maybe hasn't joined the virtual event yet. Okay, I think I'll kick things off with the very first question. Okay, so how could you justify the additional cost of a turn sheet? Is it enough to just say that the carer is struggling to roll them?
Yes, I mean, a turn sheet does cost more money than the standard sheet, and a lot of local authorities just stock the standard in situ slide sheets. So in most organisations, the occupational therapist would probably need to do a special order for a turn sheet. So so it is a case of having to clinically justify that extra expenditure. When you're doing the risk assessment, you've got to take into consideration the handler's skills and ability, and also their views. And if they are expressing that they're struggling to turn the person with the basic in situ slide sheets without the handles, then that should be enough for you to clinically justify the additional funding. But if you wanted a more measurable way to look at that, you could look at using the Borg scale, which is about perceived level of exertion. So you could Google Borg scale. I think if you Googled Borg scale and images, you'll probably come up with some slides about that. And it's a scale from 6 to 20 because it's related to the heart rate. So that's why it doesn't go from 0 to 20. You haven't got to take the person's heart rate, but you could just show them the scale and ask them, you know, okay, well, you're saying it's hard to turn the person with the sheet, you know, is that, I don't know, something like a 17 very hard, or 18, you know, a high level of exertion, or is it 20 maximum exertion? And that way you would be able to get some form of outcome measure from the carers. You could get a rep out and try the turn sheet, and then you could ask the carers to rescore for you. They're going to do a lot less moving and handling once you've got a turn sheet in, and so you're then going to get a much lower score, and that way you'd have two scores to show a measurable way that currently there's quite high risk with perceived level of exertion, and that the project you're recommending would lead to lesser exertion. So that would be a more measurable way to do it if you felt that you needed to provide that level of evidence.
I see. Thank you, Kay. We've got a comment from Melissa. She says, I really enjoyed all of your recorded workshops. Thank you for doing them. Please, can you explain further the technique of workshop 1, use of an in situ sling for toileting? I could see you move away the leg piece, but don't see how the hammock under the bottom part of the sling was removed back and away for toileting to occur. 1 second, Kate. I think you've been muted. 1 second. There we go. You're back. Oh, no, you still appear to be.
Back. It's all right.
Okay, we can hear you now. Do you want me to repeat the question, or can you remember?
No, that's all right. That's okay. Yeah. So with workshop 1, that was the one where we've got the adapter wear clothing. So my colleague Jane was wearing the open back trousers, and then she had some leggings on underneath, in the hope that we could try and film and show that we'd managed to line up the gap in the open back trousers with the gap in the commode aperture. And some people are going to need a really supportive hoist sling that's going to end up having a very small commode aperture in order to provide the appropriate support for them, particularly if they're needing a tilt in space armchair to sit in and they're needing to be hoisted into a tilt in space shower commode chair. And so that's why we went for that sling, knowing that it would be a bit challenging trying to line up the 2 holes to make that a suitable technique. I think what you're drawing attention to is the fact that the hoist sling might end up a bit soiled, and I would agree with you that there is definitely a risk that the hoist sling could get a bit soiled, which was why we'd shown you that that yes, you could turn the leg channels back on themselves and take them to the back of the chair, and that would mean that then you've got less likelihood of the hoist sling actually becoming soiled, as long as you could then reposition them back. Obviously the sling we were using did have that slide sheet material on the leg channels, which makes it much easier to slide them back in and slide them out for toileting, and to try and reduce the risk of the sling becoming soiled. And there's side access on that commode chair, which is lovely and will help the carer to achieve some personal care, but it's not likely to be perfect, which was why we were suggesting that, you know, if it was somebody with a lot of complex needs, they might actually benefit from a double-handed package of care in the morning and the evening to make sure their skin really is clean and dry, and maybe a change of hoist sling as well if it has got soiled. So I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got another question from Pookie. With your workshop 3, you showed us how to dress patients using slide sheets. How does this work for undressing to help them change their clothing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I often teach that technique with those dressing packs on practical courses, and I often get asked that question, and when I get asked that question, I just try and show the staff that actually, if you've just got one slide sheet on the bed so that the person's on a slidey surface and you've got the slide glove, you'll find that actually you can ease, you know, like the trousers off using the slide glove. It does involve getting the slide glove on the inside of the trousers so that you're using it in a way to protect the skin as you're moving the trousers down. And you could do the same with a blouse or a top as well. So having them just on any slide sheet, it doesn't have to be the flat slide sheet that's in the dressing pack. You know, any slidey surface under them and a slide glove will always make undressing much easier. You can't use the dressing pack, those fisherman's legs and the slidey arms really only help with getting them dressed. It doesn't help with getting them undressed. So I hope that helps. I think it's one of those things that's worth trying. So you know, on a training course, I encourage people to get somebody lying on the slide sheet, get the slide glove and have a go at you know, removing the clothes. So we before COVID, we always had spare kind of jogging bottoms and pajamas and things for people to put on top of their clothes so that they could practice those kind of techniques on a training course. Obviously, during COVID, we haven't been able to do those kind of things. But once things have improved, we'll go back to doing those kind of techniques again, because it really is just practice that helps with those kind of techniques.
Absolutely. Building on that same question, Sharon says, I also have the same question about undressing. She would also like to know how you remove the sling.
Yeah, so when we filmed that one where we were looking at, I presume she's talking about workshop 1, where actually we filmed it where we'd already got the in situ sling in place. And so you could use the slide gloves to assist just to move those leg channels round to the back of the chair, just to try and make the toileting easier and to reduce the risk of the sling becoming soiled. But it was an in situ hoist sling, so we wouldn't need to remove it completely, because the whole idea would be that we'd refit those leg channels and hoist them back into the tilting space chair. And chances are with somebody like that, you know, we might then be hoisting them onto the bed and just rolling them to remove the sling, unless they really struggle with being rolled, in which case, you know, you could actually fit slide sheets under them and just remove the sling by sliding it out in a position. In a similar way to the video where I've used the in situ slide sheets, and we've slid a sling between those 2 in situ slide sheets. You could do that with flat slide sheets as well.
Excellent, thank you. What kind of service user would benefit from having the hospital direct dressing pack?
Yeah, so I mean, it could be somebody who just really is very anxious about being rolled. If you ever watch a morning care call, you'll notice that home carers roll somebody loads and loads of times if they need to be rolled for personal care. Then they're rolled to maybe get their pants on, and then they're rolled again, probably multiple times, to pull their trousers up, and then they're rolled again to have their hoist sling fitted. And if somebody's really finding, you know, that that's very anxiety provoking, or they're displaying challenging behaviours, or they're in a lot of pain when they're being rolled, then actually trying to eliminate some of that rolling might be a good idea. So you may well need to roll them to do the personal care bit, but maybe you eliminate the rolling to pull the pants up, and you could eliminate the rolling to pull the trousers up by using the dressing pack. And then you could fit 2 flat slide sheets and slide a sling in between and eliminate the rolling for the sling fitting too. Or if they're already on in situ slide sheets, then you could slide the sling between the in situ slide sheets and just remove that top sheet. Removing that top sheet is not an easy task, but you can see from the videos it is possible, but the key thing is getting the satin sliding against the satin to try and remove it.
Okay, great, thank you. Excellent question. I've seen quite a few more people have joined, so just that everybody's aware how to leave their questions, you can, when you hover over your screen, it will bring up a menu at the bottom. You can either leave a text message by clicking on the chat button, or you can click on reactions and raise your hands if you would like to be featured on the screen. And let's go to the next question. Could the origami technique cause shearing forces on the service user's skin?
Yeah, that's a good question. You saw from the videos that the way you fit it, because of the way that you do the rolling of the material, it does mean that then when you're pulling the leg channel out, it is unraveling from underneath. So that would certainly reduce some of the shearing forces. I think if you look on the video, the shoulder strap comes out first, and then I think you can just about see that the leg strap is actually coming out from underneath. So actually it's just polyester kind of sliding against polyester with that particular hoist sling. I think if you were worried about that, you could certainly get the slide glove and slide it between the service user and the sling while you're also pulling that leg channel out, and that would protect the skin further. Because if you were doing it on somebody who's naked, then yeah, there may well be some, you know, particularly if somebody's got really sensitive tissue papery skin, there might be a small amount of shearing. So you could go that extra mile and really protect their skin with a slide glove. The slide gloves are so useful for so many techniques.
Okay. And Sharon asks, if a patient doesn't tolerate lying flat, How do you move a patient up the bed using the slide sheet?
Yeah, you can still do it with the person, you know, with the head end of the bed elevated. It is just more hard work because you're working against gravity. And once you've slid them up the bed, obviously there's a risk of them sliding back down thanks to gravity as well. So you could slide them up the bed. If you're on in situ slide sheets, then you need to put that lock in fairly swiftly and elevate the knee brake to try and reduce the risk of them sliding back down the bed, and tuck it in to lock it. If they're flat slide sheets, you know, you could slide them up the bed and just make sure that you're removing them swiftly. So if you pull the bottom one out first, you can just slide it against the top one, and always make sure you're doing it from the foot end towards the head end, so that if there is any movement of the service user, at least they're going to be moving up towards the head end of the bed. You don't want to slide them up the bed and then remove the slide sheets by pulling them downwards, because you'll probably end up with the service user sliding down a little bit at the same time.
Okay, lovely. And I noticed you're using the Hospital Direct in situ slide sheets. How do you think that they compare with other competitors?
Yes, they. I hadn't used them before when I did the filming, and they compare really favourably. They seemed really good, just as slidey as their competitors. I know that in the past some people have complained about the fact that there's only one colour with the other competitors, and at least this means Hospital Direct are doing a blue one. So, you know, if you've got a really fussy service user that really wants blue, then at least you've got that choice as well. They've got a weight limit on them of 300 kilograms, which is, you know, a brilliant safe working load to have on them. So the ones that I was using in the workshop have handles on them, and the safe working load's 300 kilograms, which I think is a bit more than some of the competitors' options, because if you look at the safe working load, once they stick handles on, often the safe working load's dropped slightly. So you could have a look at the specs of the competitors' ones. But yeah, they worked really well, just as slidey. So yeah, they seem like a really good product. I don't know what the price comparison's like, but the Hospital Direct website always has the prices printed on it, so it's quite easy to look up the prices with that particular company.
Excellent. And Jane has said that she also found them very comfortable, which is really good to hear. And you can visit Hospital Direct stand in our virtual exhibition hall. A quick way to get there is from the workshop space itself. If you click directly on their logo in the workshop space, you can visit their stand and they can tell you a little bit more about those products. Okay.
Lovely.
And can you use the turnsheet with handles on a mobile hoist?
Yes, you can do. It works well, but what I do find that is usually if it's in somebody's own home, there often isn't enough space to actually have access to both sides of the bed with a mobile hoist. You often find that you know, with the environmental setup, that you can only actually use the hoist from one side of the bed, and so that might just limit you. That you might find you can actually only roll them onto one side, which might not be a problem if they've got one really painful side and you're always going to roll them onto their non-painful side. Then using a mobile hoist may well work really well. Obviously on the videos, we were very lucky. We had an XY system from Wilden Rehab, the Go Lift, and it was a ceiling track hoist. So, you know, it was very easy for us to obviously maneuver with that, and we could have rolled either way. So with any ceiling track or gantry hoist, you've just got a bit more usability, that you could roll either side and you don't have all the kind of metalwork of the hoist. Whereas when you're doing it with a mobile hoist, you've obviously got the mobile hoist up against the bed. And so it does mean that there's less space for the carers to do the moving and handling tasks. But certainly if you're wanting to try a turn sheet, maybe with a sales rep, and you've only got a mobile hoist in the property at the time, then yeah, you could definitely you know, give it a try, and you'd soon work out whether a turn sheet was the right solution, and then it would be a case of considering whether you're in a position to recommend a gantry or a ceiling track hoist to make that manoeuvre much easier for the handlers, basically.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. We've got a question about OT4Independence and the training that they offer. What geographical area is that training available in?
Yeah, so I'm based in Maidstone in Kent, and most of the time I probably travel as far north as kind of London, Essex, and then as far kind of west as Surrey. I think I've been out to Heathrow, somewhere where I can drive, deliver a training course and drive back, not needing an overnight stay anywhere. So certainly that's how the business has been operating for a couple of years. And it's not just me. Jane's on the call now. She was my model in the in all the films. So Jane's also an occupational therapist and moving and handling trainer. So there's a couple of us that can go out and do that kind of work. And yeah, at the moment, we don't tend to provide the service nationally. We probably are just working in that kind of southeast corner. But if you wanted to have a conversation with us about going further afield, don't hesitate to give us a call, and we can always have a chat about whether that's feasible. Our website, if you go into the exhibitors part of the platform, you'll see that we've got an exhibitor stand, and you can click on that and that takes you straight through to our website, and my phone number and email address and everything's on the website for you, so you can get in contact.
Brilliant, thank you. Melissa asks, who is the supplier of the rectangular pad, please?
The rectangular pad is from Felgaines. So it's called the Lyrolette Pad High. And all it is a rectangular bit of foam with a Dartex cover on it. But it does just put somebody in such a comfortable position. Without it, you get a bit of internal rotation of the hip, so then that can be really uncomfortable for a service user around the hip area. But for the carers, by having that leg elevated slightly, you get a more open position to deliver personal care. So carers really like, you know, if you can provide a combination of a wedge and a pad high, that really makes the task so much easier for them to deliver really good quality personal care.
Okay, brilliant. I think that's all of the questions that we've got.
Okay.
So I think we'll finish it up there. You can find out more about OT4Independence on their virtual stand, which is stand B1. So have a little look in our exhibition hall, or you can just visit their website, which is ot4independence.co.uk, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So you can find them there. Please do have a look at our virtual events and the 5 recorded workshops that Kay has provided for us. They're going to be available for 30 days from today. And after that, they will be on Kay's OT4Independence website as well. Okay, thank you everyone very much for joining and for all of your excellent questions. And thank you very much, Kay, for answering them.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for everybody for joining. Nice to see you all. Take care.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.